job, making a lot of money, but I didn't enjoy it. And my heart kept tugging at me to go into teaching and coaching. And ever since I was little, seriously, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I was telling a gentleman yesterday, I was always a kid running around getting the neighborhood boys together to play football, and I was drawing up the plays, and it's just kind of always been a part of who I am. Decided to go back to school, get my degree, and teach and coach, and that's what I did. I wound up back at my alma mater at Woodward as an assistant coach part-time and through 98 and 99. In 2000, I came on full-time. I went from an assistant coach to a defensive coordinator to head coach at Woodward. I want to say it was in the neighborhood of 2004. Only the 4th head football coach in Woodward Academy history, which to me was unbelievable at the time, knowing where I had come from in the professional world, not having done it for an extremely long time. Head coach at Woodward for 6 years. Had an opportunity to leave there and go to a brand new school, basically a 4-year-old school that was starting up a program, Strong Rock Christian School. Looked at it as a challenge. We had taken Woodward's team the last 3 years that I was there to the quarterfinals. There's five classifications in Georgia. We were a AAA school at Woodward. Some really good football in the state of Georgia, just like Florida. As a matter of fact, this young man right here played with one of my former players, Juwan Thompson, who graduated from Woodward and went to Duke. Another young man who went to Duke that I coached named Will Bryant. I've got 2 players that are at Stanford currently, Henry Anderson and another young man. And once again, the only reason I tell you that is I understand the process of having young men not only play football, but the most important thing is why you send them here is for academics. And so typically, schools like yourself and Woodward Academies and other private schools, I understand that when they graduate, you want more than them to play football, and you probably want them to go to a high academic institution, and I'm going to help you do that, especially if football and athletics comes into play. So I made the move and went to Strong Rock. We wanted a new challenge, basically. Nothing happened at Woodward Academy. I didn't get in trouble or anything like that. It was just a new challenge. Basically felt like we were supposed to go there. We've been there for the last 3 years. We built the program. When I got there, 21 players were on the team. Our first season there, we had 31. The next season, we had 38, 39. And this past season, we had 45. We won games steadily. And the way we did it is we basically made football appealing and attractive to the young men through relationships with them in the hallways and the classrooms, just letting them understand that we looked at them as more than just football players. We looked at them as young men that understood that we actually cared about them, and the old adage of they don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care is really true. If a young man doesn't think that I care about him, then A, he probably doesn't want to play for me, and B, he's not going to give me his all. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
If you care for a coach, you're going to give your all for him. And so we want to develop relationships, myself and anybody who's on staff, with your boys. It's not always going to be a friend-to-friend relationship. It's going to be a coach-to-player relationship, but it'll be very friendly. And so we're going to try to recruit hallways, keep the guys that we have out, get some more kids on board, and try to grow the program. In looking for another opportunity after 3 years at Strong Rock, basically there were some things that were painted up front initially from administration vision-wise that after 3 years, looking down the road, I couldn't see that was actually taking place. And so we decided that we would part ways. And so I spoke with Mark. It's interesting, the story. I mean, a lot of things have happened like that for me in my life, where some people might say it's coincidence, and I don't think it's coincidence that he picked up the phone. I'll be honest with you, I don't even think you know this, Coach, but I didn't follow up with any of my resumes that I'd sent out except for you.
Except for what?
Right. Where I actually got on the phone just to check, just to make sure. We have family down in Florida. My mom and dad retired from Coca-Cola 20 years ago, and they live in Daytona. I have a brother that lives in South Florida. We're familiar with Florida, and we love the school. We love the environment, and we're really excited and happy to be here. A little bit about this young lady here. We've been married 22 years. She's done a little bit of everything. She's done a little bit of counseling. She sells Avocare products, which is a health and wellness line of products. She's a fantastic mom of 4. My children, I have one that just got married a month ago, so my pockets are empty. She's 19. She got married a month ago, and I have an older daughter who is 21 who lives in Tennessee. And then, like I said, my 2 others will be coming to school here. My little boy is really excited, and my daughter that's going to be a junior is a little apprehensive because of her having to leave her friends and that kind of thing, but she'll be okay. Fantastic kids. They do really well in school, and I think they're going to be a good fit. Yeah, it'd be great. I'm going to pass some of these out. We are in the transition right now of moving and finding a place to live. I'm going to be down here officially June 30th. I'm going to basically use the month of June to get some things taken care of back at home. But what I wanted to do for you guys, because everything's happening really fast. Well, you're going to find out about me a couple things. This is all happening fast right now, and it's probably information overload for you. But here's what I want you to do for me. I don't ever want you to feel apprehensive about approaching me. I don't ever want you to feel apprehensive about emailing me. The more that we can communicate, the better. And if you're not a communicator, that's fine as well.
Coach, I just Coach is set up on our email system here. I'd probably give him a week to get it set up on his computers and stuff, but it'll be just like everybody else. It'll be M. Miller at Canterbury, Fort Myers.
I don't want you to feel as if, that you need to be standing. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. I've been doing this a long time, and one of the things, and I don't understand why, I think sometimes I come across pretty intense occasionally. Because of that, people are apprehensive about approaching me. I'm telling you right now, please don't be apprehensive. It's just for whatever reason, it's just an outward appearance. Just please come ask me questions. Tell the other parents that aren't here, feel free to you can ask her, right? Yeah.
Well, Coach, I'm going to ask the hard question. My son, I didn't want him playing football last year.
Yes, sir.
But he bought into the program. Now that guy's gone. The hard question is, how long are you going to stay here? My son buys into your program.
How long? My plan is to
He was
stay
here for a year. My son bought into it whole heart and everything he had, and then this guy's gone now.
Right.
I don't want that to happen again.
Right. Well, I don't plan on going anywhere, especially after I drove around yesterday.
Okay. I mean, I don't want him to buy into your program and then be disappointed again.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Well,
sir. No, I
I think
understand.
there's more than just his son. You got your core of our 15, 16, 17 football-loving kids. That's not enough. You got to get them off the field on the special teams and get them, protect them. Trying to recruit the fringe guys, the guys that have been walking around asking this, heard it last year, I'm not doing it this year. That's the guy you got to get.
Right.
And to protect the kids that are,
Sure.
you can't play them 4 quarters.
Right.
5, 6 games.
Right.
Well, that's what I see, and coming in late, it's going to be hard to do.
And I understand that completely. Going from where I was at a fairly large school to a small school at Strong Rock, which was the K through 12, 750 students, just a little bit more than this school. I completely understand the importance for numbers and depth and protecting those players where they can't do it all. So I completely, matter of fact, I'm just once again, you're going to find out about me. I'm going to tell you like it is, what I think, and I'm going to be transparent with you. I had a news reporter that called, just welcomed me. Coach, what do you think? And what's your number one hurdle? Numbers. That's the number one thing that we have to have a priority on to be able to get that, especially in football. Practice-wise, game-wise, the more numbers you have, the better. And it's going to take a village to do it. It's going to take myself developing those relationships and recruiting those hallways. But it's also going to take the players on the team that are the 15, 16 core to assist in that recruiting process in the hallways. They've got to help me as well, and the other coaches. You know, it's everybody. But you're 100% correct. When it comes to specifically the football team and the practices and the games, that's the number one priority is getting kids out to play.
But I think you can do that if you also, keep academics where you say you're going to keep them, because I feel like that's the largest hurdle, because I know my child's not going to be a professional football player.
None of them are.
It is what it is. And, I know sometimes, you feel guilty because, well, I know I'm speaking for him purely, he feels that obligation, but, I know that there are some times when, he feels like he needs to study for a test, but he couldn't do that. And so, and I have a rigid grades that I expect to receive. So I think that is one reason why it's very difficult to recruit others. And I know he had worked on a trip to get him involved. And I just think that, I understand you have to be there and you have to play the game, but I know sometimes there's a special circumstance where you really need to study for a test, and I would like to think that they can do that or somehow work that out. And then also, I think there's still an issue with the amount of homework and sports. And I'm all for homework, and this is something to address to you, but there's still mindless homework. And that's something that I feel like is addressed with upper individuals. I've spoken about that in the past. And I think that would also alleviate some of the issues because, we were spending up, like we were up till 12, I don't know about other parents, but we were up till 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning doing homework and getting everything done. So I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult to make a commitment to sports. I mean, we do it, and I just go crazy from that time to that time, and then I get a little rest, but I think that's one of the hurdles.
There's a couple of things to what you're saying, and number one, I know I am, and that's why the coaches are like this also, is we're reflective. So there are a lot of things with Coach Marciano that went the way they went for a variety of reasons, and we're going to learn. We're going to take the good, and Coach and I have to. But no, I know.
At all, so I don't want that to.
No, I know you're not. I know Mike and I have talked about it, and I've talked about it with Coach. So we're going to take all the positives, and he laid a great foundation. He was the right guy at the right time for where we were to get the program going. There's no doubt about that. So we'll take all that positive, and then there are certain things that we're going to learn from, not just with him, but under the previous leadership of the upper school with Mrs. D'Angelo. It's not to say she didn't do a great job. I'm not saying that. Just like you, but we're gonna learn from those things. And I believe there are going to be kids, talking about Don's question about the numbers, there are going to be kids that are going to relate to Coach Miller differently than they did to Coach Marciano, and they're going to play. I mean, I know Scott is in this, is playing. Your son is playing now, and I don't know this for sure, but I know Scott, different kids jive with different coaches, and coaches' approach and philosophy may be one that attracts 5 or 6 others, retains everyone and attracts 5 or 6, so we address the numbers issue. And time is going to play that out,
Well,
and then the other part.
I'm sure that you serve as an advocate because I do feel like that, if someone has a game and has to leave early, I feel like they need to make some type of concession when children are because they're trying to be a well-rounded person for graduation.
The second part of that was that Coach's background, coming from the schools that he's come from, suggests that very thing. And the other piece of that puzzle is, and she was here a moment ago, she has a bunch of meetings this morning, is having Miss Doherty take over as director of the upper school. She's been a coach her entire career. She's obviously a teacher that everybody loves, and they're disappointed that she's going into administration because now their kids are not going to have the pleasure of being in her English class. But she's somebody that understands the teaching, the coaching, and the time that goes into being an athlete. So I think we're going to improve in all areas. I think in a very quick, short time, we're going to improve our numbers, and over the course of this year, I think people are going to see a different level of support from both directions, like you said. If you have a concern about too much, I don't know what the term you used was,
Don't use that one.
unnecessary homework, let's call it, maybe in your view, unnecessary homework, that concern's got to come to us. It has to come to us, and probably most appropriately to Ms. Doherty when that stuff. I mean, you can bring it to me, however we tie it
I
together.
think it's better to sort of bring it to you because,
Okay.
I feel like I've,
That's fine. I'll communicate it.
I have brought this up before, and so I feel like, saying something to you, and, I don't know how other people's children are, but like Maude like, please, Mom, don't say anything, I'm not allowed to say anything. And, it's not like I'm not complaining. I love the school. He's been here since kindergarten, obviously, and he's not going anywhere. But I feel like sometimes I need to be able to verbalize that. I feel like coaches always take things a lot easier. I don't know, that's my opinion.
I appreciate that. You're right. You're dead on. Right. I'll make sure I bring that to
Coach Miller, I appreciate hearing that you have the balance with the athletics and the academics. And I think, Janae, having kids here, they're going to have kids here in the school, they're going to have a direct understanding. They're going to be involved so they'll know what's going on. I have a question just about the size of the kids. We have a small team, and the county, the kids got pushed around a lot, I thought, last year. And, Sammy Watkins came from South Fort Myers. So these are the kind of kids that the team's going to be up against. So my question is, how do you take a small team and make them competitive and not get hurt against much larger kids in the county?
Well, that's a good question.
That's one of my main concerns as well, because we don't have a lot of big boys, and that's one of the reasons his son has not played he's played football for Naples Gators for years, and then came here and then lacrosse. He's been a lacrosse player.
Right.
And that's one of the main reasons he's not played football, because they don't put kids in the right positions, and then they end up getting hurt. Scott's never got hurt. He's played sports since he's been 4 years old.
Right.
So that's the last thing I want him to do, is to get on that field and get a major.
No, I understand. Yes, ma'am. Without having been in front of the team on the field yet, and I've seen a little bit of film on them and that kind of thing, and I can tell you that there's some kids that can run around and play some football. So it's not discouraging by any means. I've coached, especially at Strong Rock, smaller, slower players, that kind of thing, as far as playing other, the region that we were in single A for Strong Rock in Georgia High School, we had 3 in our region, just within our area. We had 3 former state champions in our region, and they were going up against a 5-year-old, 6-year-old school. So we dealt with that a lot. The way that we offset that a little bit, one, is continuing to increase numbers, getting kids out. We want to make sure that they're starting to get bigger and faster and stronger in the weight room, making sure they're eating correctly, doing all those kinds of things. And then the way that we go about teaching and coaching and practicing is, one, being just an extremely disciplined football team, whether it be offensively or defensively. Understanding how to block, how to tackle, where to be at what moment, where to get lined up pre-snap. All that sounds like it's pretty easy, but it's extremely important. Can I necessarily protect somebody that's in 9th grade that weighs 130 pounds going up against a senior from another school that's 240 pounds? I can't answer that question. I can tell you this, we're going to do everything in our power. I was talking to Coach, but some of that information is here. I want you also to know, and I might be going off a little bit down the rabbit trail, but my number one priority, just so you will know, as a parent of 4, is the safety of your children. Number 1. Period. So, and when it comes to heat, when it comes to possible concussion, when it comes to putting somebody against somebody else where it is a definite mismatch, just understand that I know as a parent, at the end of the day, you want your son to come home in one piece healthy. That's number 1. I'm not going to risk that at all. Of course, academics is right there with that, and then we can play some football and have fun and try to win some games. But I understand your concern as a parent. I did want to come back and touch base with you on your question in regards to just so you'll understand, I'm moving my family from Atlanta, Georgia, down to Fort Myers, Florida. I'm taking them away from what they know for their entire life, all their family and all their friends. So I hope you understand my commitment to coach in this school and to you guys. It hasn't been easy, you know. I'm just being truthful, you know. Anytime, Coach, you left New Jersey a few years ago, right? You know, anytime you leave anywhere, there's some. So hopefully, just by that alone, you'll understand kind of our commitment to coming down here and getting this thing going. I'm excited about the opportunity here. When I look around, and I know the type of person that Coach Taglieri is, and I've seen the commitment, I've met some of the young people that are here, it very much reminds me of when I was at Woodward Academy. The same kind of young man playing, highly intelligent, highly personable, high character, high integrity, going to give me everything they've got. We can work with that. We can work with that. Recruit the hallways, get some kids out, make the program attractive to outside the school to where we can get some other kids into school that fit character-wise, that fit academically. And my goal is in the 2 or 3 years, Coach and I are looking back and we're going, look at this thing. We got it going. But I need commitment on the nucleus's part right now that says, Coach, we're in. We're in. You can count on us, we're in. Because there's got to be that nucleus that we can build off of and get others involved. I'm not going to bore you to death with these details, but if you would just, some of this stuff in the back just for your reading later on.